All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning. And let us start the day off as usual with giving charity. Tzedakah will bring the Geula, and that's what we really need. We really need a big, major change. The curtain has to come up. Enough. Here we go. God should answer all of our prayers for good, protect the soldiers, destroy all of our enemies, transform them to the way that Hashem wants, 7 Noahide commandments. And what we need is Moshiach now, Moshiach now, charity. Just before you pray, you're supposed to give charity. Generally, it's a good thing, charity. Okay, here we're on Parshas Re'eh. Parshas Re'eh has a lot of commandments in it. It has a lot of commandments. Let's see, here we have, there's a book called Mitzvot Hashem. You look here, it's like 50-something commandments in it. Here we go. Commandments, it has in it 37 prohibitions and 17 positive commandments. So that makes 37, 47, 54 commandments in it. That's a lot of commandments. From the 613, that's a big portion. It begins like this. It begins with the strange words. Moses says, look, Ra'eh, see, Ani noten lefneichem, I am putting before you today, Hayom, bracha v'klala, a blessing and a curse. And it says, and the blessing is if you listen to what I tell you, and the curse is if you don't listen, etc. That's how it starts off. Let's make this a little bigger, make it friendly to my eyes. 1 second. Oh. What's this? I have a note over here? No. No. Oh, wait, good. All right. Yes. 1 second. I just want to get my pointer over here. Oh. So see, I today have put before you a blessing and a curse. What is the blessing, etc.? So it says, I have put before you today. Now, this is Moses speaking these words to the Jewish people as they're entering the land of Israel, which is a little bit less than 3,300 years ago. Obviously, what Moses was saying back then, I'm giving in front of you today. This is quoting what Moses said back then, right? So it's pretty interesting. We have actual documentation of the exact speech of this Jew called Moses over 3,000 years ago. I don't think there's any place that has something like that. Well, says the Rebbe, this is true. This is exactly what Moses said back then, 3,000 years ago. It's been passed down since then, unchanged. But even more, the Torah is given by God. The Torah was not given by Moses. It was given through Moses, but it was given by God. God tried to give the whole thing to the Jews, but they couldn't take it. It says they only heard the first 2 commandments. Anochi v'lo on Mount Sinai. And the experience was too awesome because we're talking about the source of all existence speaking. It doesn't make any sense. That's exactly why everybody's souls jumped out of their bodies, because it just doesn't make any sense. What reality is and what truth is so real, so I want to call it visceral, huh? Good word. It's just too intense. It just can't, like turning on the lights in the movie theater. The whole picture goes away because the picture is just made from light. The same thing when God spoke, the whole world is just made from godliness. So it was just too intense on Mount Sinai. They couldn't take it. But that's the way the whole world is supposed to be. That's how it was in the Holy of Holies. That's how it was in the Holy of Holies. And that there was pure godliness revealed. And a person used to go in there once a year. The high priest used to go in. And he would do all these manipulations and burn incense and things like that. He would do things. So God wants the whole world to be like that. But it's not. So meanwhile, we have to act as though God was revealed everywhere. So it's saying like this. So and that's what the Torah is for. The Torah is a remembrance of that, and not only it's it's a sample. It's a sample of what we got back then. So every time now a Jew learns the Torah, or does what it says in the Torah, is it brings a little bit of that same revelation of God into the world. That's the Holy Temple. And the Holy Temple and the Holy of Holies were the tablets to put that revelation on Mount Sinai permanently into the world. So really, every time that we do it, it happens. So here he goes. Moses is speaking to the Jews, and he's giving a message, not just back then, 3,000 years ago. The rabbis say anytime it says in the Torah, Hayom, it's nitzchi, it's forever, la'olam. Gam hayom, even right now. Even right now. So you can say, right now, let's see, when did the Alter Rebbe write this? The first Rebbe of Chabad, he wrote this like about 250 years ago. So even 250 years ago, the revelation of God. He says, no, that's not what we're talking about. We're reading this right now. God is saying these words right now. And of course, as you well know, now is always present. The only thing we can really sort of put our hands on is now. The past is already gone, and the future isn't here yet, but now is totally in our hands. Now, what we do, what we say, what we think. And so that what it says that God is putting this blessing and the curse, God himself. When Moses says, I am putting, Moses was speaking, but everybody knew it was God speaking through Moses. It says, I am putting this blessing to you. A blessing and a curse. Because the rabbis say any place where it says Hayom, it's eternal and forever. Hayom Hazeh means right now. Hayom Hazeh. Right now. So again, let's just remind it. I know we've reminded this a lot of times, but and the purpose of the Jews were chosen not by, our God is bigger than every other God and things like that. We're chosen by the creator of the universe. Universe means everything, constantly, time, place. And we're the only people that were chosen by the creator of the universe. Creator of the universe. And our purpose is to make the whole universe better. Right? If there's Martians on Mars or Venetians on Venus or whatever it is, we'll improve their life also. Right? Whatever there is to improve the life of the amoebas and the protozoas and whatever the spirits and the right, make the whole world a better world, the way it's supposed to be. A healthy world, healthy world. Like a person comes to the doctor and he says, "Doctor, I've my knees and my body and my eyes and my ears and my this, and I have a problem with this and this." He says, "Listen, go to Lubavitcher Rebbe, get a blessing." He goes to Lubavitcher Rebbe. Okay, you're healthy. That's it. All the problems at once, pop, they're all alleviated. Everything. Instead of going to an eye specialist and nose specialist, he goes to a reality specialist. And reality, that's what the Rebbe wants us to become, a reality specialists. We're going to fix up reality, and then everything is going to be better. The way it's going to be the way it should be, first of all. Right? There shouldn't be addictions in the world. The world can get along very well without addictions and without wars and without hatred, lies. Okay, so it says, I'm putting in front of you a blessing today. Okay, to understand this, also understand what does it mean? I am putting before you, lifneichem. I am giving to you today a blessing and a curse. It should say to you, but it doesn't. It says, I am giving before you. Now, every word of the Torah is very, very exact. Every letter is exact. God is writing it. He's got all the time in the world, right? He's got all the talent in the world. He's writing exactly the truth, real reality, the blueprint for reality. Gam milas lifnechem dahavi leilomar. It should have said, I am giving to you, but it doesn't. I am giving before you. So now we're going to start to explain. Ready? Now we have to make a reset. We have to take a step back. In order to understand this, we have to take a step back and look at it in the proper perspective, proper context. Yesh b'kol echad v'echad Yisrael. Every single Jew has what we call inside and outside. Every Jew has what's called a panemius, an inside and an outside. Outside, we look like everybody else. We act like everybody else. We eat, we sleep, human beings, right? How did it say, what is in Shakespeare? What is it? The Merchant of Venice? If you cut us, do we not bleed? If we this, externally, we're like everybody else. But internally, there's a big difference. Internally, what's it mean internally? Let's see. There's a lot of different levels of internal. Internal. There's a person can look okay. What if maybe? What about physically? The body is very complicated, and then we have emotionally, and then you got intellectually, then you have spiritually, then you have Jewishly. Here we'll talk about it. What's the inside of a Jew? The inside of a person, so to speak, that's closer to who the real person is. Who is the real person? The uniqueness of every person. Uniqueness. Hine Kasiv, it is written, Panim Panim Dibir Hashem Mochem, says that when God gave the Torah, he spoke to you face to face. That's what it said back a few weeks ago, wasn't it? 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. In Parshas Et Haran, when it talks about God giving the Torah, it says that God spoke to you face to face on Mount Sinai. When the Jews received the Torah, there was drawn to each and every Jew Bechinat Havaya, the level of God. Befinis Panim. Okay, now the word Panim means two different things in Hebrew. In fact, they're opposites. Panim means face, the most external. And the same word, Panim, means the inside. Inside. So when it says God spoke to you face to face, you can also say inside to inside. Bechinas Panim Shalem. B'chol nitzutz nishmatam, in every spark of every Jewish soul, God spoke to. V'zeu inyan kabbalat dibur anochi. That's when the Jews heard the first commandment in the 10 commandments. Anochi, I am God, your God. And it says it in singular. Singular. It doesn't say I am God, your. In English, there's no difference between you, singular, and you, plural. But some people say you all. That's not English. I am God, your God, individual. It doesn't say Elokechem. The name of God, Meir will shine, or mitgaleh, and reveal B'cha, in you, kol kach, so much, ad sheyeh nikra al shemecha, it'll be called on your name, Elokecha, your God. I am God, your God. Elokim shelcha, Elokim, the power, the life of you. The word Elokim means life also. Power. Like it's written in another place. So on Mount Sinai, the Jewish people was activated. In the Jewish people, a Jewish soul. So we see that there were, for instance, just a simple example, we see that there were Jews in Auschwitz, that they risked their lives to put on tefillin. They were put into Auschwitz because they were Jews, and nevertheless, they continued doing Judaism in Auschwitz. Who told them to do tefillin? God. God is the king of the world. God is the king of all being. He rules all universe. Yeah, oh yeah, really, he rules the whole universe. Then why am I in Auschwitz? Why is Hitler winning the war? What's going on over there? I thought you were the king, God. I thought you were the king. They didn't ask any questions. Externally, they should have asked a million questions, and they had a right to ask a million questions. What's going on over here? Why does this man hate Jews? I thought the Germans were the most cultured people in the world, and the Jews didn't do anything. What did they do? Right? What did they do wrong? So, don't ask any questions. Just get in the cattle car. Cattle car, right? All of a sudden, their next door neighbors turn on the Muslim. Any normal Jew would say, "Hey, enough of this. Enough of this. I'm not. Listen. Hey, I'm not a Jew. I'm not a Jew, and leave me alone." There was one speaker that he said that he, in all the Holocaust literature that he read, he never saw one example of a Jew that regretted being a Jew. That's what he said. I frankly do not like Holocaust literature. Frankly, I'm not. You read one book, that's it. Like Elie Wiesel said, that Hitler killed 6 million people, the same person. He killed the same person 6 million times. I know that he did it as enough. But nevertheless, Jews, for some reason or other, they didn't regret being Jews. To some degree, they were even glad that they weren't like Nazis, even though the Nazis were winning and the Jews weren't. But they were. So that's this spark of Judaism, which doesn't make any sense. The godliness, which is above understanding. How can God, who creates the world, talk to people? What does that mean? Makes no sense. Is that little spark of not making any sense? That's what the essence of a Jew is. And that's what that became Elokim Shachar, became me. That's the true identity. That's the true identity of every Jew. I mean, if you look at the world, you don't see it very much, and you see a lot of the opposite. But nevertheless, that's the real true identity of the Jews. They do a pretty good job of concealing it, but there are some that reveal it. That's what Lubavitcher Rebbe wanted to do, right? And amazingly, he was right. You go on the streets and you ask people, non-religious Jews, anti-religious Jews, to put on tefillin, and it used to be 3 of them will say no, 10 of them will say no, but one will say, oh, okay, but I don't know how to put on, right? All of a sudden you see something, what happened? Now more and more it's happening. The essence of the Jew, when it wakes up, you see that that's real nature. That's true nature. Okay, an explanation. How it is that the name of God is in every single Jew. How can this be? The rabbis say, Afilu Rishoyim, even evil Jews, evil Rishoyim, they know the whole Torah. We're talking about a Russia. A Russia is not a person that doesn't know the Torah. He has no idea what it is. Nowadays, it's very hard to say that there's people who are really Rishoyim. A Russia is an evil Jew. I mean, I guess you could really, you could construe somehow or other. There's some pretty bad Jews out there, but nevertheless, how can you say they're not evil? Because they don't know any better. They don't know anything. They don't know anything. Like I heard one person say to another, he was talking to this person. He said he didn't believe in God. I didn't believe in this. So the one who was the religious guy, he said, listen, if I thought that God is what you thought, I also wouldn't believe in him. I also wouldn't believe. In other words, you're trying to understand what God is, put it into a box, why the Holocaust explained to me. So you're right, according to the details that you have, you're right. You're correct. But let's have a little more details. It says, therefore, Rishoyim, let's take a person who's really a Russia, a true Russia, a person that knows the whole Torah, and he goes against everything purposely. Find me a commandment so that I can go against it, right? Nevertheless, he's filled with charatot. It says he's filled with regrets. The Tanya explains that there are certain people, Rishoyim Ralo, it says, that they didn't have any regrets, but that's very, very rare. Very rare. It says people who are called evil, really they're filled with regrets. What do you mean regrets? Shenoflim le'em hiruri tshuva. There falls to them thoughts of repentance. Machmas because she'enu rotza lios nifrat, because they really don't want to be separate from God. A Jew doesn't want to be separate from God. But who believe tam vadas, this makes no sense whatsoever. Because logically they can explain to you. I'll tell you a story. There was a short story. There was a lady. I don't think she would mind this. I mean, her name was Shalomit Aloni. And she passed away, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago or something. She was a big leftist, big leftist, liberal, pro-Palestinian, super leftist. And she very much did not like the religious Jews. She very was against them, and they were a big plague on Israel and the country, and they didn't pay taxes, and all the things she had, she was against them. And there was a wonderful Jew in Kfar Chabad. His name was Rabbi Shlomo Modanchik, and he used to be in Russia. He was an engineer. He used to drive trains, and he's got a very interesting story about him. But nevertheless, he used to get along with everybody. And when came Chanukah, so he would go and give out. The Rebbe used to give out Chanukah geld, 2 coins to everybody. Put him in a little bag, and he gave out 2 coins to everybody. He went around and he gave coins to all of the Knesset members. They let him come in, Knesset. But she was so against religion, so she met him she was a very nice woman. She was a very nice woman and a very pleasant woman. She helped a lot of people. But she really believed that, the religious people, they were the plague of, anyway. He met her in the hall and he said hello. And she said, I don't understand. You gave everybody the coins for Hanukkah. Why didn't you give me coins? Where are my coins? So we gave her the coins. And it came out that she lights the candles of Hanukkah. So externally, she put on a veneer, if you want to call it, or maybe she actually truly believed that the religious parties were bad, which she has a good point about that. That a good point. But Judaism itself, she wasn't against God. She wasn't against. But it had to be aroused. That's what it says. Even the Rishoyim, everyone, the people would call them Rishoyim. They're filled with regrets because there comes thoughts that they don't want to be separated from God. Why? Because this level, it comes from what's called Chachma. Chachma. Now, we talked about the 10 Sfirot and how we are in the image of God. One of the meanings of that is that everything in the world has 10 Sfirot. 10 Sfirot. And that's why it says, by the way, every man is made in the image of God. Where do we get that? God said it to Noah. Don't kill people. You can't kill people because man is made in the image of God. Every man. Noah was not Jewish. Every man is made in the image of God. So one of the things that it means that man is made in the image of God is that man has a personality, and God also has a personality. We see that God talks to things. There's things he likes, things he doesn't like. He talks to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, to Lavan, to Bilam. God talks. He tells things he wants, he doesn't want, he likes. So we see that God has a personality. The highest aspect of personality is what's called Chachma. Chachma. And I know we've talked about this before, but we're going to talk about it again because it's very essential. Is Chachma. And below that is what's called Bina. Bina means understanding. Bina means understanding, comprehension. Anything that you can understand, the ability to understand things, intellect, that comes from Bina. Bina is understanding. Chachma is, if you want to call it, awareness, a pure consciousness, without understanding, above understanding. That's what Chachma is. Another word for Chachma in the Tanya says that's faith, emuna, above understanding. A flash that I know, I'm certain that God exists. I'm certain you got, but I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I don't know what it means. I have no idea, but I'm sure that he exists. Sure that it exists. And that's the feeling of Chachma. Chachma. This is the level of what's called Bittul. Bittul. It, so to speak, is above any normal thing that I can call me. What I understand, what I want, what I do, what I think, suddenly this level of Chachma you realize there's something infinitely more real than I. And that's the true I. That's the true me. That's what's called Bittul. Bittul, I love you, Yisparech. Shalomayla min asakal, it's above understanding, Badas, Amusag. Little times you can feel this when you feel beauty, honesty, right? Your conscience tells you this is what you must do. Your conscience does. Sometimes things that are above understanding doesn't make any sense, right? And why beautiful music is beautiful, why it arouses you to grow. Why? I don't know. Doesn't make any sense, right? That's touching on this, genius, the Chachma. That's called Chachma. Okay, the ideal Chachma is that you feel that there's a creator. You feel, and you're certain, I mean, you exist, you're alive, right? You're alive. How are you alive, right? I'm being created. I don't know how I'm being created. Suddenly you feel there's a creator. And by a Jew, he feels the creator is the one who gave the Torah. He feels, but he doesn't understand it. So therefore, there can be a Jew that doesn't do any of the commandments. He doesn't do anything whatsoever. He goes against everything. It's against his whole grain, all of his understanding, all of his whole being, but he believes in God. He believes in God. He won't say that he's not a Jew. He won't say that he's not a Jew. The Israelis have been trained, now that's stopping. The Israelis have been trained to say that they're not Jews. The idea of Zionism was supposed to be to redefine Judaism. Now it's a nationality. It's got nothing to do with God. That was it. And so a lot of like the hardcore Zionists, like this Shalomit Aloni, these were, right? They were, they wouldn't say that they were Jew. But among the family, among people, right? If they're asked, if they're confronted by someone, officially they'll say, I'm not a Jew, I'm a Zionist, I'm an Israeli. But when it came down to it, down in their heart, they knew that they were Jews. And it could be that they would give their lives for Judaism. There were a lot of stories like that in them. Okay, so that's what's called Chachma, is above understanding. It's an awareness of God, of truth, that's totally incomprehensible. But Nikra, this is called maskil. This level is called Chachma. The essence of Chachma is called maskil. It's the source of consciousness. Maskil al-dabar. Because even it says, maskil eitan ezrachi. It says in one of the Psalms, King David, maskil eitan ezrachi. A maskil, the contemplation for eitan ezrachi. There was a person, eitan ezrachi, and maskil means this is a contemplation of this. In this case, the Rebbe says, no, there's 60 faces to the Torah at least. So the word maskil also means the source of seichel, the source of intelligence. Maskil, leitan, maskil, liot eitan. Milashan, the word eitan is the name of a person, but the word eitan means something powerful. Moshe be'eitan, eitan means powerful. Come on, eitan moshevecha. Like your dwelling will be firm. Ki bechina zu, this level is bechinat chazaka, it's very strong. Shenit chazek b'kol echad ve'echad b'Yisrael. This is the true power of every Jew that'll stand against the whole world. Right? That's the power of the Jew, where they tie him up to the stake and say either, kiss the cross or we'll burn you at the stake. And the Jew says, I don't want to burn, sure, bring the cross. And all of a sudden he says, I can't kiss Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. I'm not going to worship idols. Why not? Why? What are you going to get out of being killed? Don't ask questions. It makes no sense. But that's what I'm going to do. The power to stand against the whole world, even to stand against death. Certain death. Certain death. It's not like going into battle where you think maybe I'll kill the other guy. This is certain death. You're totally helpless. You're tied up to a stake. They're burning the city. You saw, you're at the whole line of people, right? In Spain, they're doing the auto de fe, whatever it is, the machine of faith. There's 50 Jews that were burned before you, and you're 51. And they say, see those guys? They refuse to see that I'm going to burn. You want to get burned? No. Okay, so deny Judaism. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem. Doesn't make any sense. And that's the essence of what a Jew is. Too bad it has to come out in such a tragic way, but that's the fact. This is what's called the power in every single Jew. Now, the Rebbe wants to bring this out of us, not in a tragic way, but in a happy way. We'll see. But that's the essence of what a Jew is. And that's what it's called about the Jews, kashay orif. They're stiff-necked people. Stiff-necked people means no matter what, if a Jew decides he's going to serve God, that's Abraham. The whole world is against him. Everything goes wrong. And he says, God, do whatever you want to me. I'm still believing in you. Stiff-necked people. Right? God says, take your son and kill him. No problem. What do you mean, no problem? What do you mean, no problem? Took him through, okay, God, now? No. 3 days, God schlepped it out. Right? Now take your son up to this mountain, raid the mountain, and kill him. Abraham did it with happiness, it says. Why? Because nothing in the world is going to deter him from doing what God wants. Because like it says, the Jewish people, God said this to Moses after the Jewish people sinned with the golden calf. It says, Moses said to God, your Jewish people, you're a stiff-necked people. They are a stiff-necked, and because they're stiff-necked, therefore you should forgive them. What does it mean, forgiven? Moses said, listen, the Jews worshiped the golden calf, right? Because they made up their mind, they were under pressure. But the fact is that if they make up their mind to serve you, then nothing is going to deter them, nothing. They just misuse their stubbornness. Am kashay orafu. Essentially, a Jew is stubborn for God, for the Torah. They're a stiff-necked people, v'salachta, therefore God forgive them. And it worked. God gave the 13 attributes of mercy. Lefi, because shehu ratzon pashut, this is a simple will, beli shum tam, without any reason whatsoever. Sometimes you see this, there's true friendship, there's true love, right? A husband loves his wife, a wife loves the husband, you love your children, children love the parents. Sometimes there's true love. There's people that love their country. They love truth. They love it. It's above understanding, without any reason. Begam, osios, etan, the letters etan, mishamshos can also be used. The word etan means strong. The word etan also means for the future, right? What does it say? Maskil le'etan ezrachi. So the Rebbe is reinterpreting all this. In the Psalms of King David, it means that this is a contemplation for this person called Eitan HaEzrachi. That was his name, Eitan Ezrachi. So the Rebbe is reinterpreting this because the Torah has a deeper meaning to everything. It says maskil means the source of intellect, above understanding. Eitan, this gives the power. This is the true power of the Jews. Eitan. So the word Eitan, Ezrachi, we'll talk about that in a second. Eitan means I will give. Eitan. That's not exactly okay. That means la'atid lavo, in the future. Ki la'atid lavo, in the future, though this level of chachma will be this surrender, b'hid kalu, it'll be revealed in every single Jew. Every single Jew, the first thing they'll start off with is God exists. I'm a Jew. I come to make the world a better place. That will be revealed in every Jew. Well, let's say it another way. God exists. I'm a Jew. I came to make the world a better place according to the Torah. But that's going to be revealed. Which is not case. Akshav, which is not the case now. Now, Haruach Shtut, there's a spirit of insanity, Mechaseh, covers over. Bedome le'enav, and it appears to him, Shodena bihaduto, that he still is a good Jew. Like we said, these Jews that every single Jew, in the end, he won't deny that he's a Jew. He won't deny that he's a Jew. He doesn't keep Shabbat, doesn't eat kosher, doesn't eat anything. What does he say? He says, I don't need that stuff. I'm still a good Jew. I'm not a good, and you're a good Jew. You're a good Jew with your commandments and your things like that. I know you guys, you're a bunch of thieves. You're not I'm a good Jew. I'm just as good a Jew as you are. Really, seriously, I'm just as good a Jew as you are. And they got a good point, because in their Jewishness, the soul, Jewish soul, it's just as good as me. That's for sure. That's good in me. And in their mind, they're utilizing it better than I am, right? Better than I am. Who says that being a good Jew means you have to do these little laws and all these little, put on your little boxes on your arms, and that Judaism is being a nice person, being open. No. I mean, if you think about it 1 second, it really makes no sense. You take a person, let's say, is a Muslim, right? A Muslim. He claims to be a Muslim, but he doesn't believe in the Quran, and he doesn't believe in Muhammad, and he doesn't do any of the customs at all. So how is he a Muslim? How is he a Muslim? Right? The guy says he's a Catholic. He doesn't believe in the Pope. He doesn't believe in whatever it is, all the other stuff that they believe in. Nothing whatsoever. Never goes to church. Never does any of the rituals. Nothing whatsoever. But he says he's a Catholic. So you're not a Catholic. What are you talking about? You're not any religion in the world. If you don't do the laws of that religion, the what is it? The Bible, whatever it is, of that religion, and beliefs of that religion. So you're not that religion anymore. You're just not that anymore. Not a Jew. Not a Jew. A Jew can change his religion, God forbid. You can say, now I am a Zoroastrian or a Muslim or a Catholic, or you can do whatever you want to, but he's still a Jew. I used to be a Jew, but I'm not. My parents were Jewish, but I'm not. He won't leave it. He won't leave it alone. Right? Because he thinks that he's still being a good Jew. Still being a good Jew. That was the big thing with Christianity. The big thing of Christianity was that you want to really be a Jew, then you have to do what he says. He is our savior. This the people really thought, right? I'm not leaving my Judaism. I'm not doing it. Because to leave a Jew doesn't want to leave Judaism. He doesn't want to leave his Jewishness, right? What's the whole thing of that Christianity? The rabbis interpreted the Torah improperly, but you have to do the Torah, right? You have to do, that's why it's very, very rare that there are Jews that convert to Islam. I mean, a Jew can never stop being a Jew, but because Islam doesn't it says clearly that we're not going according to the Torah. The Torah was lost. We got a new Bible. It doesn't appeal to Jews. There were some that did it because they threatened them with cutting off their heads, right? So they that was all the letters that were written to the Rambam about all these Jews who were forced to convert and they wanted to come back to be Jews. Could they do it? And the Rambam said, of course you can, of course. But that's what it means, Ezrachi. What does it mean, Ezrachi? Ezra Cha'oretz, a permanent dweller. Sheyesh b'kol echad ve'echad. What is the permanent dweller, the citizen of reality? Every Jew has this level. It's called Eitan. That's the essence of Judaism. And we have it me'az u'me'olam. It's for all eternity, before the world was created, because the Jewish people rose up in God's mind. Machshava, Makora Dekula, the source of everything. God creates the world. He created the world. But he created it for a reason. There was a motivation for him creating the world. And the motivation for him creating the world is that the Jews would be here and do what God wants. Right? You want to understand that? You won't understand it. I don't understand it either. No one understands it, but that's the fact. This level, this is the Yud of God's name. Baruch Hu. This is the Yud of God's name. Okay. Let's see now, 1 minute. Let's just skip this here, 1 second. I don't know if we should skip it, but we will. It's a parentheses. These are footnotes that were written by the Rebbe's grandson. That's the level of the Yud. The level of Hey, the first Hey, there's two Heys in God's name, right? Yud, and then Hey, and then Vav, and then Hey. The first Hey of God's name, this is Bina, this is understanding. Bina is called Rechovot HaNahar. This is called the widening of the river. The letter Yud, that represents like the source of the river, the wellspring that the river comes out of. But then the wellspring, more and more water comes out, more and more water comes out, until you have a big river. Bina Rechovos HaNahar, sheyesh lo orach v'rochev. Bina means understanding. This means godliness, which you can understand, which you can comprehend, which you can appreciate, which you can arouse your emotions with. That's what's called hitbonenut, thinking about the greatness of God. Kol chad lefum b'shirei dilei. Each person according to his ability. And we talked about this a lot of times, but let's just take simply, just very simply, right? Very simply. Look at the sky, right? The sky is really amazing. The sky is really amazing. You can't imagine where it ends. Can't imagine that there is an end, right? What did it end? There's a big wall. What's on the other side of the wall? What does it mean the sky is eternal? What does that mean? It says, well, there's also all these planets in the sky, and they're whizzing around up there, and science has revealed that there's other solar systems, and there's galaxies, and there's nebulae, and there's billions and billions and billions and billions of stars and systems, or whatever you want to call it. And that's just physical. That's just physical. Now, if you look at the prophecies of Isaiah and etc., and they talk about angels, and there's whole schools of angels, and there's camps of angels, and there's infinite number of camps of angels, and in every camp there's like 100,000 angels, but there's infinite numbers of angels. Okay, now the angels you can't see, but at least you can see the sky. And if you don't see the sky, at least you can see yourself. You think to yourself, 1 second, I am real. The sky is real. The sky is real. The astronomers tell me that all these planets are real. They're really there. They're up there. It's circulating and whatever they're doing. They're real. And it's all being created by God. Really. It's really so. But then you think, well, I mean, if it really is so, then that's pretty amazing. That's just beyond amazing. You want to tell me that God actually creates this amazing heavens and earth? He's creating me all the time, and I don't feel it, but he's creating this. If a person, that's called hitbonenut. When a person thinks about this deeply, each one according to his ability, how it is that on the heavens above and on the earth below, there's nothing except for God. God is creating the whole thing. And everything in front of God is like nothing. God's reality is infinitely more real than my reality, than the reality of these amazing stars and planets. And, it's really, really amazing, right? If you think about it, they say that there's suns. We have a sun. in the sky, and that the sun's like 1,000,000,000 times bigger than our sun or something, right? What does that mean? And why are they there? What are they doing there? It's the same thing with the microcosm, right? There's all these little microbes and things like that, and then every microbe is made of like 1,000,000,000 atoms or whatever, and the atoms have quarks, and those quarks have this, and it's all being created by God. Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Does that mean it's not true? Of course. If it doesn't make any sense, it's not true. Oh yeah, really? Maybe there's things that don't make any sense that are true, like life, for instance. Doesn't make any sense what life is. It's true. Okay, so that's called chachma. Like we said, beauty, harmony. These don't make any sense. But there's things that you can't. It's a commandment to try to make sense of as much as you can. That's coming to love God. Loving God is when things make sense at least a little bit. That's called hitbonanut. So the letter yud are things which cannot be understood about God. But the hey of God's name, that's things that do make sense. And you can take it and use it in your day-to-day life. And you can get even emotional about it. Excuse me. And these two levels, tzarichim liyot, have to be constantly by a person. Ba'avodas Hashem and serving God. The letter Yud and the letter Hey. Chachman, which is the feeling that God cannot be understood. It's not even in the realm of understanding. It's like an insult to God to say, I can't understand it, as though you thought you could understand. Not even the realm of understand. It's foolish to say, I can understand, I can't understand God, right? The Rebbe brings in the time, it's like saying, I can't, with my two hands, I can't grab mathematics. I tried really hard, I worked out, and I can't. I brought a big bag. I can't grasp mathematics. I don't know, I got a big net. The guy's nuts. Infinitely more so if you say, I can't understand God. It's not understandable. It's not in the category of understanding, just like mathematics is not in the category of feeling. So, but both of them are necessary. Now, on one hand, the world does not exist. It's a big miracle. On the other hand, the world does exist, and God exists, and God creates the world. God creates the world, and he creates it for a purpose. And that we can understand, we can come to love God. Both of these two levels have to be constantly by a person in serving God, without any separation. Because on these two levels, namely that God is totally beyond understanding and that God is, yes, understandable. It says in the Zohar, She'ein train rain, these are two friends, the lo mit parshin, that never separate. In other words, you know all of the books of Chabad and all the books of Kabbalah and all the books of the Torah, right? And so you can understand every aspect of God. You can explain every aspect of God, but in the end, you don't understand anything. You don't understand anything. I think I told you about this. There was one person that went into the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He was a professor and he was also a rabbi. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe didn't like it when you said that. He was a big rabbi and he was also a big professor. And the man said, he came out, he said, I talked to the Rebbe about science. He understood science. He understood science as just well as any of the professors. He said, I talked to him about Torah. He said, he knows everything. He knows all of the commentaries. He knows all the Kabbalah. He knows things. He said, when I started talking about Judaism, about God, he said, I talked about God. I heard another one, he talks about Judaism. So when I talked about God, he talks just like my grandmother. Oh, God is so great. God is so wonderful. Don't understand anything. There has to be constantly these two things together. And then number one, God wants us to understand as much as possible about him constantly and simultaneously to know that God cannot be understood. Look, and therefore it's necessary that every person has to think and la'amik dato, and to deepen his mind and binaso, and his understanding, ba'orach v'rochev, in the length and depth, according ayad sechlo v'ruach binaso magas, according to as deep as you possibly can, to ask as many questions about God as possible. But you want the answers. And when you get the answers, to sit and think, does this make sense? Does it make sense? And when it doesn't make sense, then go and ask again. But there's aspects of God you have to understand. love, and then afterwards you realize that all of my understanding is just scratching the surface of what God is. But that's pretty good, scratching the surface of what God is, right? Scratching the surface of infinity. That's touching infinity. But afterwards, God is infinite. He's above infinite. God creates infinite. You understand God, you love God, you fear God, and then lebatel, to surrender yourself. And then not only to surrender yourself, to cling to him with total self-sacrifice. That's the level of chachma. That's above understanding. You have to have both. Because if you don't have this total surrender to God, the letter Yud of Azai, then afiluim yizbon, and even if you think about the greatness of God all the time, but you'll lead me him, and you even have love and fear of God, lo yelem kiyum, it won't last. Because you always think that your love of God and your fear of God is, I'm the boss. I thought, I understood, I did everything. As soon as you feel every second that you are a creation, then that brings what we call humility. Humility. But you pull and this egotism pulls you down. Because wisdom of God means there's nothing except for God, means that if somebody insults you, someone says bad things to you, someone says, so you don't take it to your ego doesn't flame up. You hear what they have to say, you can even argue with the person, but your ego doesn't start to flame up. Your emotions are given over to the Creator. God creates everybody. God creates this person that's cursing me. God creates me. I don't get excited. It's a nice thing to say. I don't know if I do it myself, but at least I know that I should. Says once a person has chachma, he's really given over to God, then he sees things in the bigger picture. Because it says chachma, that's the source of wisdom. And this is what we're going to talk about, God willing, tomorrow. What's this got to do with the blessing and the curse? Well, a little bit we explain what it means that I've put lifneichem, is that I put before you. The word lifneichem also means inside of you, peneichem. And what's the blessing and the curse? We'll talk about this, God willing, tomorrow. Now let's do the Dvar Malchut. That doesn't stop. Okay.